This
So,
conference will now be recorded.
hey, good morning. It is July 13th, 2022. It's a beautiful July day, and it is an interesting time as far as real estate in the country and as far as what's going on in the country. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the news this morning or hear about what's happening with inflation, how it hit a new 40-year high in excess of 9%. We're going to talk about that this morning too. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and see how that might impact us as far as how we conduct our real estate business. So let me go ahead and share our screen, and we'll get started right away here with what's happening in the national real estate across the country. So we're all hearing this talk about an economic slowdown, and we're all feeling it. It really feels a lot like the brakes have been pulled up. We were kind of shooting along at high speed, and we couldn't keep inventory in, and we were at a point in which everything was moving so fast. As soon as we got a listing, it had multiple offers on it. As soon as something hit the market, there was a lot of demand, a lot of interest. And not only in real estate, but also within our economy altogether. The last few months, it's been really interesting when you go grocery shopping to see the prices of things. When you go to the gas station, how shocking it is to fill your tank. We are definitely starting to see an economic slowdown. And how is that going to impact us? And so that's going to be the gist of what we're going to talk about today. So are we entering a recession? And I can say that there are recession fears among the CEOs of major corporations. And 3/4 of global CEOs say we are in a recession or will be in the next 12 to 18 months. And that's according to a new survey from the Wall Street Journal. There is legitimate concerns and legitimate fears about that. So, however, how is that going to impact us as far as real estate? Throughout history, during a recessionary period, interest rates go up at the beginning of a recession. But in order to come out of recession, interest rates are lowered to stimulate the economy moving forward. So historically, we have seen a reported uptick in interest rates, followed by lowered interest rates. So that's something to think about, because we've all seen how mortgage interest rates, we're talking about interest rates in general, how the borrowing power, when you go to get a loan to purchase a car, how that loan is costing more in interest rates, how banks are charging more for everything because the borrowing power has gone up. But we know that interest rates follow the treasury bonds. So let's take a look at kind of what's going on with this. So taking a look how the tie-in with mortgage interest rates and recessions work. So this is from Freddie Mac, and this goes back to the 1970s. And so we have marked up here 6 recessionary periods. These boxes are showing when there's been recessions in the economy. And you can see how mortgage interest rates have all dropped during that period. All of them. This is the last one, which happened in 2020, which of course was the COVID recession, which we were only in for a couple of months. But mortgage interest rates dropped tremendously. That's the one we remember most because it was most recent. But we'll go over all these other ones as well. And we'll take a look actually, if we take this chart and turn it into a different chart, here we can see what actually happened during these recessionary periods. So here's the recession of 1980. It lasted 6 months. And mortgage rates went from 16% to 11.8% during that time. The early recession of 81-82, which lasted 1 year, 4 months, mortgage rates went from 18% to 13%. The early 90s recession, which is 8 months, mortgage rates went from 11% to 8.8%. The early 2000s recession, which was 8 months, 7.4% to 6.8%. The Great Recession, and that's the one we all remember for the housing crisis, which lasted a year, 6 months. Technically, it sure felt like a whole lot longer than that. But mortgage rates went from 6% to 4.9%. And again, the COVID recession, just 2 months, 3.8 to 2.8. So during all these recessionary periods, mortgage rates drop. So that's something to keep in the back of your head to think about what actually happens during that time. So the rates all went down. So over the past 5 recessions, mortgage rates have fallen an average of 1.8 percentage points from the peak seen during the recession to the trough. And in many cases, they continue to fall after the fact. So it takes some time to turn things around, even when the recession is technically over. And I think about the housing crisis, how that seemed to drag on, even though it was over. It took a long time to make our way through all the foreclosures and the short sales and everything like that. So it does take time, but recognize mortgage rates do, they have historically fallen during times like this. So we've shown this chart quite a bit. It's come again from CoreLogic, and it shows that recessions don't equal a housing crisis. And so this is what's happened during the last 6 recessions. What's happened with home prices? So we had this small one here in 1991 in which housing prices dropped almost 2%. The big one, of course, was 2008, and we've talked about that, the housing crisis. In that case, the recession was caused by housing. So it was, again, the lending policies that said everyone who could walk in the door should get a home. The no-doc loans, the extending credit to people who really had poor credit, giving them not only mortgage, but also a HELOC. So they were able to leverage everything. And again, prices were going up. And then, of course, it all fell in on itself because it was built on a house of cards. But outside of that one and this very small one here, every other recession historically since 1980 has resulted in, we have had home prices go up during that period of time. It's not necessarily a crisis as far as housing. We'll go into that a little bit more too. So here's another thing to think about. What's happening with inventory? These are national statistics here I'm going to show you, but then we're going to go into what's happening locally. So we all have seen our listings are receiving fewer offers. Nationally, last month, 61% of offers were over asking a month ago. Now, only 55% of offers are over asking. So we're seeing changes as far as what's happening with offers. We're seeing much fewer offers happening. So let me go on to the next one. Our offers over asking. And again, I already shared with that statistic here. There are fewer, the offers over asking are coming in less. In fact, I am seeing within the brokerage itself, just in reviewing the files, and again, this is nationally, but statistically locally, when I'm reviewing the files, I'm seeing offers coming in at under asking price. This is kind of what we were used to having. Offers at asking price may be the top, but now I'm seeing a lot of offers coming in a little under asking price, even if there's been significant price adjustments, because buyers are now having more opportunities, things to look for. Sales are down. We are seeing fewer and fewer sales, and we'll go over that locally as well, but across the nation, there are fewer sales. But we're also seeing an increase in inventory. Now, inventory was nationally about 1.6 months. It's now about 2.6 months, which is an increase of a whole point. And a balanced market, understand that a balanced market is really 6 months of supply. And the last time we have had a balanced market in the country was 2012. That's coming out of the recession, which we had so much inventory. Again, a balanced market is 6 months of inventory, which basically says, you have enough inventory for 6 months worth of demand to it. And we've been operating, last year we had less than a month's supply often. And there are some cases we had like 2 weeks supply, which was all that buyer frenzy we were seeing, the multiple offers, prices up, buyers saying, take my offer, I will waive my appraisal, I'll cover the appraisal gap, I won't even do a home inspect. I mean, those were scary times as far as representing buyers in scenarios like this. I'm glad to see a more balanced market coming back, but we're not yet to that point yet. We just have a bit more inventory than we had before. So there's been a pickup in inventory that we've seen recently. It's not an increase in new listings, but rather a slowdown in the pace of sales. And that's true. We're seeing fewer sales. There are more listings coming on board, but it's rather more attributed to a slowdown in the pace of sale. And remember that a month's supply measures the inventory of sale relative to the pace of sale. You have the same inventory but fewer sales, it means you have more months supply. So we all know as interest rates, mortgage interest rates have gone up, that means the buying power of people has changed. And so in our market, in which home prices are so high, that means fewer people can afford to purchase because interest rates have changed their buying power. In some cases, having raised those interest rates as much as they've gone up, it's knocked people out of the market. So when you have someone who's looking to find something under 500,000 because that's all they're qualified to purchase at this rate increase, they're going to have to look elsewhere than then, and that's been the case for a while. But even more so, their buying power is impacted by the increase in interest rates. So let's look at the months of inventory of homes for sale. So this is what's happened here, just January through May. So we've seen in January, they had 1.6 months of supply. Going to May, 2.6. Again, national statistics from the National Association of Realtors. We don't yet have the June figures in here, but still, it's interesting to see how inventory has grown, and it's grown across the country. More buyer options. New monthly listing counts. So this is new listings coming on the market. Now the green is what's happened in 2021, and the blue is 2022. And so we knew earlier in this year there was such a lack of inventory, even less than the year before. But look what started happening in April. We are starting to see more inventory coming on board. We are seeing in May 541,000 new listings across the country compared to 509 in 2021. So new listings are growing and we're getting more inventory. So existing home sales, this is one of those things, again, from National Association of Realtors, that is showing a seasonally adjusted rate. So understand, this is where we are in May, 5.4 million home sales in May of 2022. If you take out 2021 and 2020, which were they were totally anomalies. We've never seen a market like that, ever. We've never seen homes turn as quickly as that. I mean, last year at this point in time, if we had 10 active listings at one point in time, we were doing well. Now we have 40 active listings. It's great to have more inventory, but that just means we have fewer people who are in the market purchasing. So, but if you look at the 5.4 in May of 22 and compare it to 2019, we're kind of in sync with what was happening in 2019 and 2018, which were great years. So, and I'm going to pull up some data on that too, and we'll take a look at that, because I pulled up my charts from 2019 just to see what we actually were seeing in our local market, and I'll take a peek at that. But this again was 2022, go back to 2019, great real estate years, really, truly great. Again, it's not 2021, it's not 2020, but if we get back to where we were in 2019, that would be a good thing. We had more balanced market, even though it wasn't balanced with the 6 months of inventory, but it was more balanced. We had like 3-4 months of inventory, and it was good. Buyers and sellers, give and take, negotiations, it worked really well. So home sales have essentially returned to the levels seen in 2019, prior to the pandemic, after 2 years of gangbuster performance. And this again is Lawrence Young. He's the chief economist of NAR. He's a guy who knows these inside and out. You ask him about any market across the country, he can pull data up. He's a brilliant man, and he really knows these things, and he charts them all the time. And he's saying we're returning to 2019, which is not necessarily a bad thing. As active inventory continued to grow, rising 21% above 1 year ago. In other words, we're starting to add more options, but the market needs even more before home shoppers have a selection that's roughly equivalent to the pre-pandemic housing market. This is from Danielle Hale, who's the chief economist of Realtor.com. So inventory is coming, more options. We all see that. We all see that in the market. In fact, I was looking at the hot sheet a few days ago and noting that there were more price reductions on the market than there were listings that were pending. We're seeing an adjustment. We're seeing the market shift. It's just taking, we're in the midst of that right now. So this is also a chart that was from Realtor.com, and we're looking at their forecast update for inventory across the country. At the beginning of the year, they were predicting we'll have an increase of 0.3% in inventory for the year. They've revised their forecast, and they're now predicting a 15% of inventory across the country. We are seeing this change in our market happening everywhere, more inventory. We should start to see less competition, fewer bidding wars, and therefore less upward price pressure. Here's an interesting thing to look at. In fact, a simple analysis shows that a 1 month increase in the month's supply results in a 3% decline in annualized house price growth. And our preliminary house price index is already showing moderation in house prices in April. So in other words, if we get more inventory with each 1 month increase in the supply of inventory, it means it's going to be a 3% decline in the growth of house prices. So it's not meaning that house prices are necessarily going to go down. It means that the growth of them will drop. And so if we compared, and I talked about this, I think it was a while ago, a couple months ago, but I did an analysis of where we were in Bend at the start of the pandemic. I looked at figures from March of 2020 and compared them with March of 2022, and we had a 67% increase in the price of a home during that 2-year period. So 67% increase in 2 years is not sustainable. We all know that. But a normal market shows a 3 to 4 to 5% increase in home prices over the course of a year. That's normal. And so if we get more inventory, going back to a more normal increase in the price is, in my opinion, a very good thing. So here's a question for a lot of people, and we're hearing this from our clients that we're working with. Should I buy a home right now? So here's an analogy you can give them, especially as they see these kind of headlines out there. It's kind of scary. The cooling housing market enters into the great deceleration. Home prices decelerate as the housing market downshifts, and buying a home at the wrong time can backfire a big time. Here's why it may pay to wait. So you're hearing these national and local headlines. Everybody's saying the housing prices housing market is on a downward shift. So take a look at this. Think about when you're driving down a highway somewhere, and most of us, when we're out in the middle of nowhere, go higher than the posted speed limit. Say you're out there on a highway out there in Eastern Oregon, the posted speed limit is 60. How often do we actually go 65, 70? Most of us do. I will admit I do, just because there's no one else around and there's no traffic. It seems safe to be going like that. So all of a sudden, in the distance, you see someone parked at the side of the road, and you suspect it's probably a sheriff out there who's got a radar gun on there, and he's going to be looking to give you a ticket. What you immediately do is you ease up on the gas. You may even have to push on the brakes to slow yourself down to the posted speed limit. So the deceleration, instead of going at the 70 miles an hour, you're now back to the 60 miles an hour. The 60 miles an hour is still moving really fast down the highway. So deceleration of home prices does not mean depreciating home prices. It doesn't mean that we're going below that 60 miles an hour. When we decelerate because we see the sheriff, we'll go the speed limit. We don't necessarily go below the speed limit. So recognize that in relationship to where we were last year, the price adjustments we're seeing right now are based upon the accelerated pricing. But if we're still above where we were last year, that means comparison to last year, home prices are still going up. So just take a peek at that. This is the home price forecast from all these major economic companies, people who really track these things. This is the home price forecast for 2022. So if you look at Fannie Mae, they still predict an increase of home prices by 10.8%. Freddie Mac, 10.4%. CoreLogic, 9.6%. HPES, that is the home price, what is it called? Economics estimate survey. So they predict, this is a conglomerate of economists who look at what they think home prices are going to be over the year. So they still predicted 9.3% for 2022, NAR 8.4. It's only the Mortgage Brokers Association that's a little bit more conservative about it all, and they're saying a 2.7% increase. But if you take all these forecasts together and average them out, it's still showing an 8.5% average that they expect to happen for 2022. So with that in mind, take a look at what's going to happen estimated for next year in 2023. So again, this is again the HPES survey, which again estimated for 2022 9.3, but in 2023 4.9, 2024 3%, 4%, going forward 5 years. So back to normal trends. That's normal trends. Still an increase in value, but adjusting back to a normal market. That's the estimates. That's the expectation from these major sources. So if you guys don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he is a kind of he deals a lot with personal finance and personal responsibility. He's big into paying off credit card debt, becoming financially independent, but he also offers a lot as far as it works with home purchase. And this is his words specifically here. The root issue of what drives house prices almost always is supply and demand. Now, interest rates affect that. When interest rates go up, guess what? Fewer buyers. The demand goes down, thus prices are going to soften or not be as cray-cray, that's his words, cray-cray, crazy as they have been. And that's what we're seeing right now. So prices, he's predicting prices will soften and not be as going up at as steep a rate as what they've been in the past. So what does that also mean? Well, here is something to also consider when you take that, what's happening with our economy into consideration. This is new construction. This is coming from the census, and this is showing single-family housing units completed, going back again to the 1970s. So you can see how across the country, we were building at a very good clip. And this is the average of units completed over all this time through the 1970s. And in 2007, we all know what happened. The market crashed, the great housing recessions. And then what happened is, of course, all lending stopped for builders, and there was nothing being built, though our population was still rising. And so we have been in 14 straight years of being below the 50-year average for building new homes. We still have not enough inventory for the demand across the country. That's a fact. We still don't have enough housing for the demand. And the builders have not been able to keep up with that. We're getting back to that point, as of last year, getting back to an average, but we've had this huge deficit. And that's really what's caused a lot of the issues with our inventory. That, and also this next chart, which is the US population by generation. Here's the baby boomers. This is where we are, the silent generation. People are dying off here, Generation X. But the big deal right here is the millennials. The millennials are entering into their peak home buying years. These are the people 25 to 40. So these are the people in their peak home buying years. And there's a huge group of millennials here who are looking for homes. And there's not enough out there for them. A lot of these millennials have money. People who've worked in the dot-com world, they have great demand. And we know in our own personal market right now, we are seeing people moving here from the San Francisco area. People who've worked in the high-tech world now with COVID showing and their employers recognizing that they can still be productive and work remotely. They've moved here. And again, not enough homes, which is what's driving home prices. They're in their peak home buying years right now. So here's the last chart here that we're going to look at, this last quote. So this is from Realtor.com. Experts don't believe the market is in a bubble or a crash. And that's in the cards like during the Great Recession. The nation is still suffering from a housing shortage that has reached crisis proportions at a time when many millennials are reaching the age when they start to consider homeownership, and that's likely to keep prices high. So that is the thought process of a lot of the experts in the country right now. So any questions on this or comments about this before I get to our local stuff? Any thoughts about it? If not, I'm just going to get to our local stuff. Oop. Let me get out of that, X out of that, and get into this one. So here's taking a look at what actually happened within our brokerage this last month. Comparing, I always do apples to apples. So I'm looking at what we did in 2021, which was phenomenal, versus 2022. So let's take a peek. Listings are even. We had 29 new listings in 2021, and we had the same amount in 2022. Roughly, maybe $1 million less in value this year compared with last year, but still roughly the same. Here's a big difference. We have 34% fewer pending sales. And that is a reflection of the fact that a lot of our buyers have been priced out of the market, or they're uncertain what's happening with interest rates. People have pulled in the brakes. They're just kind of on a wait and see attitude. I've listened to a lot of people, and a lot of them are like, yeah, I don't know what to do. Or last year, some of them got discouraged, went away. We also have people say, I can't afford to buy even in La Pine right now, or in Prineville. I just can't afford that. So we are down in the number of pending sales. However, volume, again, look at this, with 34% less in volume, 34 less in actual numbers, our volume is up almost $2 million in actual pending contracts. So that tells you what people are buying is worth more than what it was last year. Our closed sales are down a bit to 6 fewer closing, about 15% less. But again, the volume, $10 million more in the value of our closed sales. So that's significant. That's definitely significant with just a little bit less. And our year-to-date figures, you can see our year-to-date numbers are down, but again, the volume is up. So that's where we are. We're selling more expensive stuff. Now, I pulled this chart off of MLS, and I always find this really a good education to look at what they're seeing. And if you look at here, active listings, we've all seen this, a big uptick in new active listings. And this is the new listings here. So this is active listings. These are things that are on the market right now, but new listings are right here. And sold listings are kind of coming flat from March through June, even a little bit down compared with March. Listing prices, they're evening out. We are seeing this across the board. listing prices are not going up the way they were over the last couple of months. But compared with a year ago, they are still up significantly. I'll take a look at that. Absorption rate in months, you can see that we have more inventory. We are not down less than a half a month of supply. We're up over 2 months of supply, or close to 2 months according to this chart. Sold to list ratio, we're not in the multiple offers that we were. We're not selling above list price the way we were. It's going down to more closer to asking price. Days of markets are starting to creep up. And price volume, again, here's the active list volume, the new list volume, and the sold volume. Sold volume starting to creep downward. And then here's the chart I always look at. What is for bin single family residential homes? I'm looking at fewer listings. I mean, that's active listings as of that point in time. Now, this chart always changes based as if I did this analysis now as compared with what I did when I did this at the end of last week, these figures will be adjusted a little bit because people will be plugging things in late. So they always adjust a little bit, but active listings down a little bit, new listings up just a smidgen, new pendings up a smidgen, or actually 18%, solds down 23%, sold volume down 22%. Average sale, now this is interesting. The average sales price is up 2.2% compared with a year ago, just 2.2%. So when we talked about a decrease in the acceleration of prices, this shows it right there. The median sales price, however, is up 10.5%, median sales price. And the sales percentage of list price to active price were down 4% compared with 2021, so back to closer to 100%. Month supply about two months. Last year at this point in time, there were points in time, I know last year it shows 2.3% from last year. That's actually as I say, this figure itself always is changing. Last year, I know when I was charting certain times, we had 2 months, a 2 week supply of inventory. So that's the thing that changes the most. So one of the things I did here, I'd like to share this with you, is I pulled up this, and not that one, it is this one. So these were my blogs that I did, and I'm looking at 2019 because we're talking about, are we returning back to what happened in 2019? Are we looking at trends that may be similar to 2019, which was a great year? So this was my blog I just did at the beginning of this month when I'm looking at what happened in June. So again, this is where I'm talking about average prices up 2.3%, median price up 10.4%. The data charts that we used from 2019, we no longer have access to this trend graphics. That MLS opted not to continue working with them, so we're instead been using these trends, which are from from Showing Time. It's the InfoSparks charts. So I have different things I'm charting, but some of these things are similar. And so if I look at the average price, again, comparing June of 2021 with June of 22, up 2.3%. The average price here in 2019 compared with June of 2018 was up 4.6%. So look at this figure, 689,000. So we're up almost 200,000 in an active sales price, but the growth compared from 2018 to 2019 is back to a normal route, a normal rate, 2.3, 4.6, closer to a more sustainable figure. Also, if I look at this other thing here, average price per square foot, it was up 4.8% to 261 dollars per square foot. Average price per square foot was up 5% compared with the year before to 421,000. So that, I mean, again, the cost to build, the cost of a home is still significantly higher, but the increase to 5%, 4.8%, that's almost the same trend as what we saw in 2019. The average days on market, they were down 5.6% to 89 days. 89 days on market. So when you have your sellers who are saying, my house isn't sold, it's been on the market for a week. It's like, yeah, if we're going back to the trends of 2019, the average days on market to sell was 89. The average days on market still here, it's gone up 71% compared with the month before. We're up to 12 days. We have a long ways to go to get back up to that 89 days. You know, so if you can make comparisons and talk with your clients about, yes, this is not 2001, it's not 2020. This is more trends similar to 2019. We'll have to see how this all develops as we move forward during the course of the year. But this, if you look at where we are now, use 2019 as a better indicator as opposed to making comparisons to last year or the year before, and having that realistic discussion with your clients to let them know we are not in that kind of buyer frenzy that we were. For your sellers, they need to, if they are hitting the market to sell their property, let them know we need to price it with this market in mind, not last year's market. It's really important to price it according to this market so it will sell, if that's the goal. If the goal is just to have it sit on the market, you may want to try to play the market a bit, but you're going to follow with price reductions down, 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 as I think we're in this adjustment this year to get it back to a more normal rate of growth. So this is a couple other things to take a peek at too. I pulled this data up. This is from Redfin, but we're seeing here that home sales are getting canceled at the highest rate since the start of the pandemic. And you probably have heard this data here too, but we're talking nationwide, there were 60,000 home purchase agreements that fell in June, which is about 15% of homes that went under contract. So we're seeing people who enter into contract, and if they don't have a loan lock or something happens during the course of that escrow, they are canceling. We've had that happen within our own brokerage. We've had some buyers at the very end, all of a sudden they don't qualify for the loan, and they've had to cancel. Or sometimes it's just uncertainty. People feel they get into contract and then all of a sudden they have buyer's remorse and they think, oh my goodness, I'm buying at the peak of the market. I got to wait for prices to come down more. Well, recognize compared with last year, maybe we're going to see some adjustments, I think, as we move into fall for things that haven't sold this year. Compared with a year ago, prices are still elevated, but for sellers who are, you know, are learning the truth of the market right now, they are adjusting. And here's one of the things to look at. This is a data here regarding skyrocketing prices and what's happening. And so the closest market that's showing right here is Portland. So these are a share of homes for sale with a price drop in May. And they're showing in the Portland market, there was a 42% of homes had a price adjustment in May, price drop in May. In May of 2021, just 25%. So we are definitely seeing adjustments a lot across the market. In fact, and I'm going to give Peter total credit for this, he told me that he had done an analysis himself, and he was looking at prices for active listings in Bend, and his price, what he was looking at was Bend single family, less than an acre, and he was looking at homes that were over $1 million and homes that were under 500,000 to $1 million. And I believe he said that the homes over $1 million, 47% had a price adjustment, or no, it was 40% had a price adjustment. And then these are just active listings. And then for homes that were under $1 million, it was 40% or 47. It could be one or the other. So I don't remember exactly which one was the accurate figure for each one, but regardless, over 40% of active listings in Bend itself have had price adjustments. So interesting things that we're dealing with right now, an interesting time. And you are better suited to represent your clients when you know what's happening in the market. People are going to ask you this all the time. They're going to ask you, well, when should I buy? Well, recognize now is a good time to buy if you're looking to purchase. And don't be afraid of writing an offer under asking. Sometimes there's some sellers out there who are very, how's the word to describe them? Very opinionated, that they think that their home is worth more than everything, or they think it's worth what it was last year with the market that way. Providing them with accurate data, accurate information to share with them, this is the reality of what we're seeing. This is what's happening in the market. And if your goal is to sell, let's price it to make it something that a buyer sees value in, so that they will offer on your home and you will get your home sold. Having that discussion, being realistic of what's going on, and recognizing, again, if we can let our people know, we're kind of returning back to a more normal market. 2019 was a great year before the pandemic. And so if we go back to those rates and those trends, I don't think we're going to go down to that level in prices. We're not. I just don't anticipate that. But we're adjusting back to a maybe more 2020 figure, maybe 2021 figure. But again, the rate of acceleration will adjust. So questions or comments about these things? Anyone have thoughts about it? Does it all make sense, what I'm sharing with you? Everyone's really quiet today. Before we get to haves and wants, next week we're doing a class for continuing education for just us. I'm going to have a couple of different lenders coming in who are going to talk about what they're seeing, what their expectations are as far as market trends for mortgages. And we're also going to have like a panel discussion. So I want you to think about questions you may have for lenders. We're hearing stories about people who are writing into offers, seller to contribute to a buy down of buyer's loan as a concession for a seller. That's a new one I haven't heard before, but it's kind of where the trends are leading. Something to think about, I'm going to put this out early so everyone's aware, and so we can put it on their schedule because it's going to be for CE credit. And if nothing else, let's go to haves and wants. So if anyone has questions, haves and wants? Haves or wants, just go ahead and unmute your mic and let us know what your thoughts are on this. No haves or wants? Okay.
Hey, Renee, this is Julie. Sorry.
Hi, Julie.
I'm just waiting for other people first. I have someone who's interested if something super low maintenance comes up in Northwest Crossing. So not a huge yard. It's just a house that they would only live in for part of the year. So they like that area, you know, or by that Discovery Park, up to $3 million.
Okay. So low maintenance, are you looking like a townhome or a single family?
Yeah,
or
we talked about that. She wants space for the family, so at least 3 bedrooms plus an office. I mean, I did send her one that she liked with a yard, so they're going to be coming possibly back in town in a week or so with the rest of the family. So yeah, it's something that they might even need like a groundskeeper or something to manage it while they're gone. They're not as interested in the townhomes because they weren't big enough. So yeah, we saw some homes in Tethrow as well, but she also really liked the Northwest Crossing area. So, but
okay.
mainly low maintenance.
Okay, very good. Low maintenance. Okay. If anyone has something like that coming on board, please connect with Julie. Anyone else haves or wants? One of the things I'm starting to see again coming out of COVID is we're getting back into open houses, which I think is great. The opportunity, obviously, to feature that home, but also a chance to meet unrepresented buyers when you're hosting an open house. So seeing more of that. So I think that's wonderful. And again, connect with Emily and Brittany to make sure we do market your open house. when you get to those points. Anything else that you're seeing? Anything you want to contribute? The things I'm talking about here today, do you find that this is what you're seeing also in the market right now? Yeah. Okay, if nothing else, then I hope you guys all have a great day. If you have any needs for anything, please connect with us. We will be here. I have this one meeting at 1 o'clock today, which I don't think will be more than an hour. I'm just going to be there to do my presentation and probably click out after that. If not, see you soon and talk to you soon. Thanks.